Joining me now, Florida Congressman Michael Waltz, a U.S. Special Force veteran, and retired General Keith H. Kellogg. General, what is the process by which drone targets and strikes are approved?
Yeah, well, Trey, thanks for having me on. Look, how this is done, if you're tracking a target, you're either tracking it through communications intelligence, human intelligence, or signals intelligence. And then you pass that to the commanders on the ground and the commanders that are in the cupola that are guiding the drone going forward. Look, here's something to remember. When you're looking at a drone strike, those drones can basically read a license plate on a car. That's how good their optics are. And my concern is that's just a couple days after the ISIS-K strike that killed 13 great Americans and wounded over 20. I think there was a big push to try to get these planners. And then remember, we were told these were ISIS-K planners, where they weren't. They were tracking a white van for approximately 8 hours. And then they said it was going to be a righteous kill, and they were dead wrong about it. And I'm sure they had, good intelligence in the sense who was actually in that. And they had to know that it was a probable wrong target going forward. Look, here's how we did it in the White House when I was there. If we got intelligence and we were going after a target, we kept everybody in the loop. The Pentagon kept us in the loop in the Situation Room. We kept the Vice President, the President appraised of what was going on at the time. And the ultimate decision to shoot was a Pentagon decision, but everybody was knowing what was happening out there. I just think they was basically, I hate to say this, Trey, it's a rush to judgment. They fired it because they wanted to have some type of kill to show after the 13 Americans were killed, and they made a bad mistake. I mean, look, a white car, that's like saying there's a target in a black car in Washington, D.C. You know how many black SUVs there are in Washington. It was just a bad move. It was a bad call. It was not a righteous kill, as the chairman said. And here's the biggest concern I've got, Trey. Somebody should be held accountable. And they're now just kind of saying, oh, we're just going to go by and what do you have for breakfast tomorrow? Somebody's accountable. Somebody should be held accountable.
Congressman, it does not appear this over-the-horizon policy of Joe Biden's worked very well for this car full of kids. Look, I know Republicans are in the minority. You're limited in what you can do. But will we ever know how this happened with the Democrats in Congress?
Well, we have hearings coming up, Trey, with Chairman Milley, Secretary of Defense Austin, and everyone involved. And here's a couple of things that just don't add up to me. Number one, I want to get to the bottom of the decision when we had to go back in, whether it was briefed to the White House, a course of action to take Bagram Air Base to the north of Kabul. Kabul International Airport is sitting in the middle of a city of 4 million people. It's indefensible. And those Marines that were killed just a few days prior to this bad strike were put in an impossible position to leave the gates open to conduct this evacuation that Biden should have started months forward. But on the other hand, in a teeming city replete with the Taliban and with ISIS suicide bombers. Number two, General McKenzie, the general overall command of the strike, constantly said they were rushed and they were on an impossible time frame as a justification for the strike. Well, I want to know, were they being pressured by the Pentagon or by the White House to take this strike because they had to take action because of the suicide bombing? And to your point on the over-the-horizon counterterrorism, I've been saying this for months. You may as well call it over-the-rainbow counterterrorism. It's a talking point. You have to have multiple forms of intelligence to pinpoint the bad guys and be sure that's who's in your crosshair before you take a strike. You have to have people on the ground. You have to have sensors. You have to have signal intelligence, all to double-check your work. And we don't have any of that anymore. None of that. It's all been pulled out. When we pulled the troops out, the intelligence left, the contractors left, our diplomats left, and now America is a lot less safe. You have no bases in the region, no local allies on the ground, and now you have an army's worth of terrorist equipment for them to hit the United States again. This cancer is going to spread, and it will follow us home, and sending drones from thousands of miles away isn't going to be good enough.
Well, to both of you, thank you, first of all, for your service to our country, and second of all, for helping us understand this tragic situation that happened in Afghanistan. Yeah. Thank you both. Coming up.